Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare.
So we're in the 9th chapter of Samsara, Nirvana, and Buddha nature. And we're wrapping up this section. Last week, we covered 2 of the big hindrances that really prevent us from fully engaging our practice. And they label them as 3 lazinesses. And we did these first 2. And the first one, of course, is procrastination, which I think we can all relate to. But the laziness of busyness, that's a tricky one. How we can get so caught up in all these other activities that we really don't do the things that are most meaningful. And then our Dharma practice gets set to the side. And now we'll come into the third one, which I think is one of the biggest ones that really prevent us from engaging at the level where we're capable of. So let's pop open the text. The third type of laziness is discouragement, which comes from thinking that we are incompetent. The path is too difficult, or the resultant awareness is too high to attain. And she's talking about 2 children. She's letting you know which voice is speaking here. Believe that this is a big hindrance to people in contemporary Western society, rooted in the view of personal identity and a self-centered attitude. It makes us give up on ourselves before we even make any effort. Whether it comes from being taught original sin, being pressured to excel, or constantly comparing ourselves to others and never measuring up to our own satisfaction, this discouragement poisons our approach to the path. Examining and shedding our erroneous thoughts about the meaning of success, learning about Buddha nature, and developing deep self-acceptance are antidotes to discouragement. This, it's commonly asked. I've quoted a few times. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche asked, "How come there are fewer people in the enlightened than here in the West?" And he just said, "Because you don't believe in yourselves." There's the Dalai Lama, and here's me. There's these beings that spent decades in the cave and dedication and strong. And I'm working on 15 minutes meditation, and it's difficult. And we start thinking, wow, that's just too much. When we list the things that can be accomplished when we are awakened, and really recognize Buddha nature in its full capacity, and then pretty easily we can think about how I'm not there. This is a huge impediment. We have the same amount of Buddha nature as the Dalai Lama or anybody else. We have no less. When Buddha was a regular human being, woke up. So our view of ourselves can sometimes be like, this is just going to be too much for me. I gone to different teachings, I've done workshops, I've done this, and it's just, it's helping me in my life, and I feel better, and I'm able to be more resilient. I'm able to have joy, better. These practices help me be a better human being. But that whole enlightenment thing, that's, that's not, I don't see myself getting there. And so that's going to be a huge challenge generally. When we look at ourselves and we think about, what it would take. It can be pretty overwhelming. What we rarely do is look at how far we've come and see how much progress. And overcoming this idea of discouragement, some sense that we're not good enough, or we don't have those resources. Well, it's a bit of a challenge. So one of the things that's really nice to do is kind of look for some examples. Are there examples in our lives of people that have progressed, they're doing well? Are there examples in our lives of people maybe that have achieved some degree of awakening? And were they anything like me? And a common problem here in the West around that too is, and it's been spoke to a few times from some of my teachers, is, we put like my teacher, Geshe Gelsen, this incredible Lama, this Tibetan that is, just this amazing Tibetan being. And, and I met him, he was this high Lama, just joyful, kind to everyone. He's, from Tibet. He'd come from the great monasteries. And, that's a role model, right? But he's not Western. He's not a knucklehead like I was. And, where's our examples we can relate to a little bit more? And so for a lot of people, it's still this sort of, that's Tibetan masters and all that. Where's somebody like me? And unfortunately, we have some examples now. One of our teachers, Alan Wallace, Tenzin Palmo, was born in England, went to India, and wound up learning Tibetan and spent 12 years in a cave. Pretty amazing being. And Tubden Children, who's writing this. She was a school teacher here in the US. And actually used to, at our Dharma Center, her husband was part of our Dharma Center. Good practitioner. And, she was married to this guy sitting next to me. She was a school teacher. Now she's the abbot of Shrivasti Abbey. And, so there are these people in our lives. As a matter of fact, Monlan, Venerable Monlan, who is a nun at Shrivasti Abbey, was just a student here at our Dharma Center. And she's a nun at Shrivasti Abbey giving Bodhisattva breakfast talks. And she was a knucklehead, full on, Lauren knew her well. Probably wouldn't have even guessed that she'd have made it as a Buddhist, let alone a nun. And, now she's this amazing being. So, it's good today that we have real life examples in our lives. Some of you have met Aaron, our, program director here, and a really kind human being, and, wasn't Buddhist at all, was just a good human being, and stumbled into the Dharma Center, and he actually took a mindfulness course, not even a Buddhist course first. And today he's a caretaker at the retreat center with Alan Wallace and his wife, and he live in the retreat land, and just an incredible human. And so it's kind of nice to know, okay, there are people like me that you may not have guessed, would have any capacity to dust off all this affliction and let their true nature shine. And we've got some examples. So that's a real good thing to start looking at, is people that we can notice and see their qualities and recognize that, this is something that is possible. And now right here in our own lives, we can look at how far you've come. I know many of you online personally, and in a couple of you, I know you've come a long way. I'm not sure that's a compliment, but I do mean it so. And we often don't give ourselves credit for how far we've come and what we've had to overcome. And so when we look at our evaluation of ourselves and try and decide, could I do this or not? This discouragement can arise. Take a reality check. Look at how far you've come. It's working in your life. And also be realistic. I've mentioned more than once that when I first got engaged in the Dharma Center in Long Beach, and was learning from Geshe Gelsen and that, what they were teaching me was so far over my head. I pretty much said, I'm not going to get any of that, but they're going to teach me how to be a good person, and kind of focused on that. And then as I started clearing away those self-grasping, self-centered attitudes and thoughts and became a kinder, softer version of myself, well, that clears away the obscurations and allow the wisdom teachings to come in. And so my motivation at the start was really believing, that's way down the road, but this is helping me now. And so what was realistic is, well, that's where I'm at. And the door is open for more. So this is where I'm at, but the potential is much more. And so that was good enough. But if we close the door, it's a pretty hard thing. We're already limiting ourselves. And so when we get to the idea that there's not much more than just being a better human being, that's limiting. There's a belief right there. It's just close the door. But maybe I can be a better human being, and who knows, might be beyond that door. Why not? Why not me? And these teachings have come through time, and many examples in my life of people that have accomplished quite a bit, and some you would never know. So this is one of those real barriers to really fully engage in the past wholeheartedly. It allows us to dabble a little bit and then take a break, because we're already doing a little better. Okay, take a break and forget that we have this one life with these conditions ripened in just this one way at this one time, and that at any moment we might be right on that edge of opening up that awakening, and don't want to miss that opportunity. Go ahead and continue their thoughts too. How can we accept ourselves when we are full of faults and have created so much destructive karma? First, we have to ease up on self-criticism and extend some kindness and compassion to ourselves. This enables us to accept ourselves for who we are at present, knowing that we can improve in the future. We recognize that in previous lives, we created a tremendous amount of merit because we now have precious human lives with all of the conducive conditions to progress on the path. In addition, we have the potential to become Buddhas, a potential that can never be taken away or destroyed. And each of us has our own unique talents and gifts that we can contribute to the world. So it's a funny line that we get to play here. One is we need to have a real deep sense of self-worth and value. And on the other side, we don't need to be arrogant and prideful, which undercuts the whole point of the past. So in order to fully engage here, we need to have an understanding of the incredible opportunity of the life that we have and the unlimited capacity, and really honor how far we've come and what we have to bring to the world. At the same time, we don't want to build up a false sense of an ego and then start evaluating and measuring, how much more spiritual I am, so and so. How those people with those misunderstandings are so lost, they get away. And, now I'm actually grasping and more ego, more self-obsession, and actually taking me away from the path. Self-worth versus self-centeredness. A deep appreciation for life that you have, and an understanding that everything about this life is because of others and because of the conditions that have ripened for us. And so rather than becoming prideful, we get to become grateful and recognize, wow, we get to be here because of the efforts of so many. Not to be prideful that other people gave me a life. Something to be grateful for. And then to honor our efforts in this path. And so there's this important capacity to really recognize that Buddha nature within, that value within, the effort you engaged in, the worth that you have. No less, no more than anyone else. But understand its independence upon all of us. And in that way, there's a good balance, rather than a self-centeredness that's either self-critical or self-praising in a way that actually undermines the whole point. So I'm going to pause there, see if anyone has any thoughts along those lines just yet, between the tendency of self-criticism or doubt and challenges to developing a sense of self-worth, and maybe some challenges of being arrogant.
Something that comes up for me is the sort of felt pressure of time and speed, which I think is particularly Western thing.
Mm-hmm.
That we're conditioned to believe that faster is better always, and it's kind of how our society works, how our economy works. When it comes to the path of wisdom, trying to go faster is actually going to slow you down, probably.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's just one aspect that has been a lot for me recently. Realizing how good it feels to allow for slowness and time and spaciousness, and the importance of how valuable deep traditions like this one are in supporting that kind of long extended practice. It's hard to find that when you're just out on your own.
You don't have 12 years to go in a cave.
Yeah. I have a 2-year-old daughter.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a common, a bunch of people are giggling because they relate to this idea of we have limited amount of time. We have, how do we maximize it? And we have this tendency, as you point out, to try to squeeze the most out of the least. And I actually find that's an interesting concept in a lot of movies.
Mm.
how many movies there are where, like, I'll go to Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, right? He's getting trained by Yoda, and he's not ready, but he goes on.
Yeah.
There's a ton of movies like that where our hero is getting that training and they're not ready and they leave early. Yeah, I find that fascinating because, I sit there and think, they're teachers and everything, so you're not ready. And, but we need to do this now, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder how it found its way into that genres like that. But we have this saying that, Aaron and I used to talk about a lot, is no need to rush, no time to waste.
Yeah.
And that's that balance that that rushing is wasting time. And developing that patience to allow things to ripen and give us spaciousness around this opportunity. And a lot of our teachings, really mention that, we don't know if we'll leave them, right? Could die anytime. We don't want to waste any time. And so that we get an urgency. And then, people strive, they're going to nail this level of mind, get that accomplishment. And the more we strive, the more difficult it becomes. So you're nailing all those pieces. And from a Buddhist perspective, and you pointed this out too, is time is just construct. And if one has a Buddhist view, we've got time. This body will come, this body will continue. As long as we continue to cultivate the causes for these conditions to ripen. There's space in that way. But another way it helps me a lot is understanding that I don't know if I'm right on the edge of awakening right now or not. And to be creating that condition means to be having patience with my partners, with the work I'm doing, to be recognizing that anyone I'm coming in contact with is creating a condition for me to wake up. That my practice is now, and this is where we have the whole genre of Lojo mind training practices, is how our daily busy life becomes our actual practice of training the mind for awakening. And those challenging people and events become your best teachers. And you get to use the trainings like the 7-point mind training as an incredible fuel for awakening in your day-to-day life. And it's incredibly effective. Instead of thinking my practice is going to be sitting over here doing this thing and that ritual and this thing and all that, it's that, we kind of gas up for the day. But my practice is here dealing with these challenging people. My practice is dealing with my mind that's in a hurry. My practice is and as soon as you notice that, well, now you're in practice. Now you're not wasting any time. Oh, I've noticed I'm in a hurry. Now I'm noticing this. I notice the tension in my body when I have to do this, this, and that, and this person's still talking. Whoa, what a practice. Then now I am fully engaged in practice to go, right now, this is the most important. And that becomes incredible. Because it's all that driving mind, which is driven by that self-grasping, which is our core problem. So now you're addressing it in a different way. And so our life becomes our practice. And so that whole series of Lojo teachings and really incredible for Western people with kids, family, lots of things that are on the table to do each day. That all of those can then become transforming ourselves. Yeah, but it's tricky. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I'm sure many of us here can relate. Greta.
Hi, thank you for that. Really grateful for this topic. I was thinking about, I think often actually about what you say about we have the same potential as the Dalai Lama. And I think I've heard on these talks before that like enlightening is like as close as your eyelash, like it's like right there. But when I think about, okay, I have the same potential as the Dalai Lama, this voice comes up like, how dare you think like that? That's the Dalai Lama. You didn't put in that much work. What makes you think you could? It's obviously like some crazy inner critic or whatever, but there is something that there is some like weird core belief that I've noticed recently. Because I think you said this last week about the Dalai Lama, like we have the same potential. So I've been like sitting with that and kind of thinking about that. And it was interesting to see that voice, like, you can't do that, And yeah, I guess I would love it if you'd speak a little bit more on that. I guess you already have, honestly, but I want to hear more.
Yeah, and it's not that you have the same amount of potential, you actually have the same amount of Buddha nature. It's not potential. You have that Buddha nature is already there. The only difference between him and us is he knows it. And
It feels like arrogant, like you were saying, it's like, and it's somewhere in the middle because I've seen it go and I'll be like, oh yeah, I have that potential. And then it like immediately judges in some way, like on the subway, for example. And I'll be like, oh, okay, can't think like that, gotta think the reverse. And this like weird, like, what is it called? Like a seesaw, and striking the balance is definitely like my life's work at the moment, for sure. Anyway, all right, I'll stop now. Thank you.
I think you were really nailing what Tupin Chodron was trying to say in the book. You're exactly nailing it. I think a lot of people here can relate to that. As soon as you adopt the idea that you have the same amount as the Lamas, there's a little voice in all of us going, "What? Who do you think you are?" Right? And yeah, some nodding heads here, right? And that's what Dilgo Kensei Rinpoche was talking about. And it's such an embedded piece of our culture in so many ways, and that's the roadblock. And the opportunity you have now is you get to challenge that. You're aware of it, and we get to challenge it. But it is something that will come up, and then the other side of the voice, that voice coming from. We don't want to get too puffed up, right? Arrogant. And that actually prevents us from being valuable. And then you start to notice that when people are arrogant, they're really fearful. If you actually are comfortable with who you are, you don't need to let anyone know how wonderful you are. You don't need to carry around the credentials. Don't you know who I am? How can you talk to me like that? Or how many times has somebody explained something to you and you're thinking, do they think I'm an idiot? Like I don't know this. And, and we have to let them know, we know this, of course, I'm not stupid. If we're really comfortable with ourselves, we might just go, oh, it's good information. My insecurity needs to let you know that I already know that I'm not an idiot. And so, we're just so fragile in that way. And that's where Yatsuma Tenzin Palmo, which we talk about all the time, it's really part of our initial journey is developing a healthy sense of self. And as we get more comfortable with our sense of self, as we get that innate confidence that we don't need to brag or share everyone, just you know you're valuable, you have a good sense of self-worth, you are a good human being, you have much to offer. With that sense of a good sense of self, then you can proceed in eliminating self. Right? But if you're insecure and fragile, there's no way you're going to let go of that. And so it's this weird mixture of first a healthy sense. And this is the work we get to do. We get to notice that critical mind. We get to notice those thoughts and habits. We get to notice when we want to let someone know we already know. And that becomes a nice practice. And as we engage in that practice and we maybe become tolerant of letting someone explain something that is so obvious. And I don't need to let them know that. You know, I'm getting better at this. And we really need to have a reward system where we can authentically acknowledge our progress. You know, reward, and not like I need a Tootsie Roll or something, but the innate, I mean, it's just really not bad, but the sense of recognition of that goodness, that type of reward. It's not self-centered. It's really just authentic. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, let me see if I can get this right. I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And, you know, you sit there, you know, how much is just obsessing on me. And then, you know, I even think of myself as that great. And I'm just thinking about how much further I need to go. And so the PIS instructions always abandon all hope and fear. And that's the balance. And that's hope in the sense of grasping, I'm going to get this, I'm going to achieve this. That's going to limit it. Fear that I won't, fear that I'm going to waste my time, fear that I'm not going to be good enough. So the idea is let go of outcomes and engage in the path as we are and allow things to come. And understand that nothing we do is all us, right? Nothing we do is all us. Nothing we say is all us. Nothing we do is independent. Everything is being supported. And that we're a part of something, and that part of something is unfolding and ripening. And we're either moving in accordance with it or fighting it. I either recognize I'm interdependent and a part of something, or I'm independent and forcing something. And that's this big challenge that we go back and forth. But when you recognize you're supported at all times and that you are always in a state of becoming, and there's nothing about you that's permanent and fixed, the potential is limitless. And then we have space again. We have time. And when we screw up, just got to learn what doesn't work. Now we know. And it just becomes an instantaneous growth process. Any other thoughts on this? You're moving towards a whole nother section.
I'll jump in. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciated you sharing examples of, you know, regular people and, you know, making this more advanced, you know, progress on the path. And I was also thinking of Pema Chodron, in that list. She was married at one point, an American, and Robina Courtin too. She even had, I think, quite a troubled past even, and you know, she's she's a nun with a very strong practice and doing a lot of talks. And anyway, I do find that inspiring, and I really appreciated that you pointed that out. It's helpful to me. And I've been thinking about my own, I don't know, hindrances or obstacles. I think one of them for me is I don't even just think it. I pretty much know it that the Dharma, the more I practice and listen to Dharma and read Dharma and embrace it, it's so vast and so big, and there are so many different practices, and I can't get to feeling overwhelmed, like even to the point of I don't know which practice to do next, because I'm one of these people that everything I read, like, that's great, I want to do that. Oh, that practice, I'm going to do that. And before I know it, I have like 20 of them that are top of the list. And then trying to balance that with, a very full life and a lot going on in life. And so I don't know. It's just a balancing act. And I think the feeling of overwhelmed about there's just so much, and I don't know how to get a handle on all of it. That probably would sum it up. Let's see what your thoughts are on that.
Well, they say the Dharma is vast, and I'm kind of half vast. And how do I get involved here? And you can easily get overwhelmed with I mean, yeah, Theravada Buddhism, you got Zen Buddhism, you got Pure Land Buddhism, you got Tibetan Buddhism, man. We got scholars, we got about 84,000 types of practices. I don't know why that should overwhelm anyone. And types of practices and different lineages, and so it can be really easy to get caught up, especially when we get this new kind of teaching and practice, and we don't want to get that. And the key is really to simplify. Because it's nice to have some nice overview of all the path. That's where I think the Long Road is so wonderful. It pretty much outlines the whole path, fitting into any particular lineage, at any particular motivation, at any particular place you might be. And that's a good practice at that stage. But finding jumping from one to another and not really letting them unfold in the way that's most helpful is really challenging. And as I think you're aware, I was pretty clear that I've received certain teachings, empowerments. I've got this trajectory of a path that I'd like to engage with in my life. And but in order to prepare for that, I know that settle in practice is my primary practice. And I remember telling Alan, formally asked him to be my teacher and all that. So okay, I'm going to spend the next year on 7-point mind training. And when I get that, where I feel competent, then I'm going to engage in I'd study with him for a year and have all this stuff in that next Dzogchen. I don't know, 6-7 years later, I'm still on the 7-point mind training. And I'm not competent. And so, but the thing is, as many of you know, because you come to 7-point mind training on Tuesdays, that's primary to me. But I also have some other things that I do, that nourishes it. But having said all that, when in doubt, it's real important to recognize that the PIS instruction of pretty much every teacher within my realm, including my primary one, is the three principal aspects of the path. And that's renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. When my teacher was passing away, with all the teachings he gave and all the things he's done, his PIS instruction is your heart practice should always be the three principal aspects of the path. It's the shortest Lam teaching there is, but it's everything, renunciation. As a matter of fact, if I were to read on in this chapter, it would bring that up. Renunciation itself is an incredible practice where we see the suffering that we cause ourselves, the afflictive states, the grasping, clinging, renouncing delusion, and this incredible desire to not waste a moment of your life, imprisoning yourself in these afflictions. And then bodhicitta, that I don't want anyone else to be in prison. And then wisdom, the ultimate understanding, realization of the nature of your experience. To know you're put in nature. And so at any point in time, things that we do that help us with renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom, it's pretty good practice. And it's kind of nice to just pick one very, straightforward, consistent practice. And then if we read or learn more about different practices, what we can do is use them as seeds to be planted for future use. One day I might get back to Dzogchen. I don't know. But I also have a whole bunch of teachings I've received over these many years. For some reason, I can actually still bring them up sometimes from the depths. But as far as the actual engagement in practice, really keeping your primary one going real strong, reading, studying, receiving teachings of these other practices are seeds to be planted for potential future use. And it might nourish your current practice. But we're going to get a lot farther with that consistent, that real consistent daily practice of watching the mind and knowing, this carrying interdependence, carrying the view with compassion and with wisdom, compassion, loving kindness, anything with those motivations propels you on the path, right? Those are the three that move towards enlightenment. And the three that imprison us, is our misunderstanding, our attachment, our aversion, right? The three poisons. And when we can just keep putting it all down, what helps us do that? What helps me know what my motivation is and whether my action is leading me towards enlightenment or leading me towards imprisonment? It's going to come from wisdom of this interdependent existence, sense of self, motivated by compassion or loving kindness, or motivated by an understanding of our interdependence, or it's going to be motivated by attachment, aversion, ignorance, self-grasping. And that's pretty simple. Are my practices helping me do these three things? Well, I have those three motivations. I just went and redid my whole Buddhist bookcase. There's a lot of books in there I have not read. And I can pull out this one little thin one, and it will have everything I need to know. Which is fascinating. This one, as a matter of fact, think it's 16 or 18 verses. Three principal aspects of path, everything you know is there. And to give you an example of this may not help you, this may overwhelm you. Might go in the whole wrong direction here. But the stages of the path to enlightenment, the Lamrim Chenmo, this great vast text, of which everything we've been learning about is drawn upon, is based on a teaching by a Tisha, Lamp on the Path, which is a very short text, very short text. I mean, it's, yeah, very, very tiny, very short text. And that is the basis for then Lama Tsongkhapa gave a commentary on that. And then this other commentary that unpacked that, which you can buy, is, you know, the Lamrim Chenmo Stage of Path to Enlightenment, 3 volumes, about 2 inches thick. And then there's a commentary on that by which is about 4 inches thick, 5 volumes, unpacking that. And we have what we've been going through, somewhere around 10 or 12 volumes, which is unpacking all of that for a Western mind. But if you go right down to the core text, I think it's 18 verses. And so we can elaborate to huge degrees. But the point of elaboration and consolidation is finding ways it connects in my life. Right, these examples. And so, you know, something can be said very concisely, but where we are at and in our life, that context for understanding it, you know, we might not have many examples. And so we gotta unpack what that looks like and what practices help support that. And there's no set practices, you know, it's we have all these practices because we have all these different minds, and certain practices are better for certain minds. And, you know, finding the ones that really ripen for you and sticking with those for a while continuously kind of, yeah, getting other teachings, get around planting seeds. Other ones may ripen. And they're already, you know, seeded within. You get a loom, you get a transmission. It's there, seeds are there. But simplify, you know, I'm big on simplify. Jetsuma says you should just find one basic rim, you know, type practice. And do a foundational practice, do that every day, keep a simple practice, a basic rim with the stage and path, and then other stuff, you know, it's nice to sharpen, but you may not need to quote the 56 mental factors and explain those to me. But for some people, that can be very helpful at a particular time. Yeah. I don't know on 56, but so yeah. But the key is always the practice is right here, right now. And that quote about the eyelashes is that our awakening, our Buddha nature, our awareness, it's already, it's just, there's this thin layer between. And it's so close as we can't see our eyelashes. That's the example. I can't see it's that close. And so finding just a good solid day in and day out practice that helps you remember, helps you ripen with a good heart, loving kindness, with compassion and wisdom every day. And then purification. I mean, that's just a daily thing. Like, why wouldn't you purify every day? If you can purify a bunch of negative karmic imprints, why wouldn't you do that every day? So, that's a good mix. But, these other teachings, we don't have to do them on. We just let them let them just know that they're there. And then, yeah, I'll just wrap up on this one last point, because we think about time and, overwhelm, things that we need to do. Venerable Yarpel, monk, incredible monk, lives in retreat most of his life. He's the one who wrote the whole story of Geshe Gelsen's passing. He was an attendant during that time, so I know somebody read that story. I was with him once in a hotel. We were going to India, and I was a monk, he's a monk, and this guy lives in the tree. And we're sharing a hotel room together. He's doing his practice. And, he's been a monk, I don't know, 18 years by then or something, a lot of time in the tree. And he's got his practice out. And I said, so where are you at here in your practice? He said, I'm on the preliminaries. He's on the preliminaries of Lama, like the beginning of really understanding impermanence, death, and meditations on death, and just these. And he spent like an hour meditating on those, and it was such a big sign to me that he's building his foundation. Of course, he has a ton of other teachings. He had empowerments. He had other ritual practice. But really, in his development of his foundation, he was still meditating a couple hours a day on the foundation. And he was incredible. He was incredible. We went to India, and I'm running around like a tourist. Let's go see this Lama. Let's go do that. All the monastery. And then we say, hey, you want to come? You go. So what's going to happen there? He's evaluating, is this going to help my practice or not? And sometimes it's nah, and other times he'd come. And but he was just so clear about his priority. And it was good foundation. And it just gave me a good understanding of the time. What's really important. Is that Kurt or Keith?
It's Keith.
Okay.
I'm running into some confusion between Lam Rim practices and the Lojong 7-point mind training. And that really is the primary practice I'm focusing in on, is reading a couple of different commentaries and focusing on slogans in the 7-point mind training, which I've been doing the preliminaries for a while myself. But I think of the preliminaries and, and then the next slogans, I think of those as the Lojong training, but you're talking about the preliminaries as a Lam Rim practice. So I have some confusion, obviously.
Yeah, you can fit Lojong in the Lam Rim. So Lam Rim, stages of the path to enlightenment, and within all the Lojong, this one's, in 7-point, you're really talking about bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is going to fit in the framework of the Lam Rim on the bodhisattva path. And so it's part. So Lam Rim goes everything from, literally how to set up an altar to, what to contemplate at the beginning. These preliminary practices are like the 4 thoughts during the mind and so forth. And then works your way through to which scope that you're on, what are the qualities, if you want a good life, ethics, if you want nirvana, how do you engage in those practices? And at the bodhisattva stage, so think of Lam Rim as just this whole path. And at different stages, there's certain practices. So all that Lojong is going to fit in the bodhisattva part of the Lam Rim. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that helps a lot. That clarified a lot. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, All right. Let's go ahead now. And yeah, Megan gave it a thumbs up. All right. We'll go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated here today. Time, energy, and intentions, wisdom. You can dedicate this for the benefit of all beings. The aspiration that they become free of suffering, and for our own continued spiritual growth, that we continue to nurture and grow the qualities of understanding and realizing our own good nature. We may be liberated and be of greatest benefit to all. And those who care to, you can join me in the dedication. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, and that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.